Hey, comic book collectors, do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCon15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.
Welcome to the one and only Comic-Con Podcast, your podcast for comic book news, reviews, and comic community drama, with your hosts, Nemesis Prime and Milton the Mammoth. Are you listening?
What's shaking, everybody? How's it going? We are doing a live show here on YouTube tonight. Decided to switch it up because I feel like not having to edit the podcast too much. So here we are, season 4, episode 30, a little San Diego Comic-Con preview that's been going on over in San Diego. So we got a little bit to talk about. We got some articles, some comic books, and then we're going to review a trailer. But we're also going to talk about Deadpool 2 right now. We're going to completely spoil it for you. Deadpool 3, I'm sorry, Deadpool Wolverine, because I completely just went to go see it this afternoon. I'm just going to spoil the hell out of it right now for everybody who hasn't seen it. So the people that show up are... You get that?
Got it. No, damn, you just ruined the whole thing.
No, I'm not going to talk about it, but yeah, we'll have to... You're going to go see it, right? In like
Saturday, yeah. I'm actually going weirdly at like 9:30 a.m., almost like a brunch type thing. So
okay, so a little brunch and a little mimosa and movie for El Deadpool. So yeah, we'll do a full review, I guess, sometime over the weekend. We'll put that out sometime next week. Of course, full spoilers. So, but yeah, let's kind of get into it. What do we got first? Let's community stuff. Of course, we're going to be at Terrificon in a few weeks, literally less than a month. Go ahead and check out our exclusive TMNT #1 done by V. Ken Marion. You can pre-order it, available at JAF Comics, JAFcomics.com. Make sure you guys head over there. You can get some copies, either unsigned or signed copies if you're not heading to Terrificon. But if you are heading to Terrificon, we will be set up at Terrificon at E6 and E7 in Artist Alley with our buddy V. Ken Marion. So, other than that, of course, August 3rd, the BX Comic Expo in the Bronx. We are a sponsor of that show. I should be there as well. And then, we'll see what else is going on throughout the next couple of weeks. But make sure you definitely follow us, as our road to Terrificon is right around the corner. So let's kind of kick us off with some books, as always. Zach, you want to kick us off with our weekly reads?
Yeah, I was just telling Justin I didn't get to a few books, so couple of books that I didn't get to, which might be absent for this. I didn't get a chance to read Turtles. I know Justin did those, so that'll be good. I didn't read the Annihilation book either.
Okay, good. Two books that I get to talk about.
Good. Nice House by the Sea and Supermassive are kind of like the two big ones that I didn't get to that I really wanted to. But let's see, what did I get to that I liked? I mean, obviously I did all the event stuff that we're currently reading. I made sure I did that. Rook Exodus 4, awesome. Continuing to be just a great story. Same with Redcoat from last week, Redcoat 4. Oh, so good, dude. Redcoat is so good. I don't know if you, I feel like I say this all the time, but if you aren't reading it, you really should be. It's just so good. So funny and fun. Oh, I haven't finished Feral either. What did I like this week though? So I'm a big fan of the Dick Tracy. So Dick Tracy #3 came out. Obviously, Mad Cave is doing Dick Tracy. Super fun stuff. Every time I read the issue, it makes me want to go back and watch the Warren Beatty film as well. It's just such a great, amazing movie. But also, I just love how it's very adult, and there's a lot of blood and violence, which isn't surprising if you've read stuff from Mad Cave Comics before. Like if you read any of the Nottingham stuff, like it's very violent. So I'm enjoying the way the story is played out and kind of like the realism involved in it. And just seeing like people like Mumbles and Flat Top and the classic characters like that. Like just oh god, Itchy and what are some of the other assholes? I think the dudes have weird names. It's
Prune
just
Face.
So funny. Prune Face showed up in this issue. But yeah, so it's really cool. Check it out. You're only 3 issues back. if you didn't read it. So what else? Void Rivals is great. I don't really feel like there's anything that stood out for me this week.
NYX 1. Did you read NYX?
Yeah, yeah. It's okay. It was okay. Like I didn't think it was amazing. Honestly, I mean, look, the truth is, and I've said it a million times, like I'm not a fan of Ms. Marvel. I don't find her to be a very interesting character. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say, I know people are like, well, it's not written for you. Okay, cool. It's not written for me. Fair enough. But guess what? Because it wasn't written for me, I don't like it. So I don't know what to tell anyone. So I don't find her to be very interesting. I think she's a one-dimensional character and nothing changes with her ever. And it's just force-fed to change her. Like, oh, it didn't work as an Inhuman. Guess what? She's a mutant now. And so we're just basically living this life of waiting to find out what her mutant power is. So we still don't know, right? This is just her Inhuman power, the embiggening bullshit. So we still don't know what her mutant power is. That'll eventually probably drop once everyone's interest in her dies down again, which it will, because she's the most cyclical character. Honestly, she's no different than Miles Morales. Like people are like, oh, it was real cool. Oh, no sales. Oh, we'll bring it back. Oh, no sales. I feel like it's the same thing. But the supporting cast is decent. Like I like the Cuckoos. Obviously, I love X-23. I like Anoli and Prodigy. I wish Anoli was really awesome in the new X-Men stuff. And I really like Prodigy as well. And then I think I don't know if they were trying to, fit the quota again. And then by making Prodigy get like gay, just changed his character. And so I don't know. His power set's awesome though. Like I really find it to be very interesting. And if we're kind of ruining things, I guess a little, the villains at the end of the book, super
the redo of it's like an old character and renamed,
right. Yeah, we kind of saw him, but I love the character who it is. Because we're going to talk about this book when it comes to another topic going on, so I'm kind of going to speak on it right now. So I love the character Hellion from New X-Men, like back in the New X-Men days. It's such a great character, underutilized recently in the past, 4 or 5 years. Honestly, they haven't done much with him, so I was really glad to see him come back. Empath is a great character as well. He's such a piece of shit, so he's just a classic villain who's just like a massive scumbag, and has always been a scumbag. Even the Krakoa age, when they had the bad team, what was it called? The Hellions. Duh, should have known that. When they had the Hellions and Empath was on that, he was a total piece of shit. No one trusted him because he's a scumbag. So it's cool seeing him there. We'll see. We'll see how it goes with this book, but not bad. I wasn't blown away from it though. But that's kind of it, I guess. Like I said, it was a little. Maybe the books I haven't read are going to be the big hitters.
Yeah, there's definitely. So I'll speak on those definitely. So obviously the NYX was one of them, but I did like the Ultimate Black Panther number 6. I feel like that's like I feel like that's such a sleeper title because of the fact that like Ultimate Spider-Man has been getting so much love and we've been giving Ultimate X-Men so much hate, but I love the Black Panther stuff. And I really think, what we spoke about last week with the new characters that are going to be coming that are introducing in like the later issues, the whole idea with this, like what the vibranium does and then what the anti-vibranium, like with the whole growth of life and just the way the characters are. Like I love Killmonger. I love Aurora, and Shuri doesn't trust them yet. And like, cause we know who Killmonger is, right? Yeah. But is that the same Killmonger that's kind of like in the 616? Who knows? But I think it's a great series right now, and it's probably one of my favorites. I would say it's definitely, obviously, like Ultimates is only at like issue 2, right? I think I've continued enjoying this series for sure, but
I like how they brought the gods. Like I like how you have Ra and Khonshu, right? So I mean, these are two like Egyptian gods, Africa, right? Which they typically in the 616, you don't see, there isn't a lot of crossover with Khonshu and Black Panther, right? And even Raw, so much, there's not a lot of lore in Marvel comics with Raw too much, but I think it's very interesting. It makes sense, right? It makes sense why you've got these, you got the Wakandan gods and you got Ra and you got Khonshu, and it's all kind of like operating and happening there in Africa. So I really like that take. And I agree with you. I think it's a very strong title, which I think you said it last week, or when did we record last? I don't know. You said you were we were surprised by it because Black Panther is not typically a title that either one of us have found to be very strong in the past. So
yeah, definitely. Another title I would put this on garbage of the week, and I was in a back and forth kind of conversation with somebody about this. Was Something Is Killing the Children 38. We're still doing this Road Story story arc, and the entire issue. And listen, let me first prefacate by saying that I am someone who spent a good 6 to 8 months in therapy, and I've talked about it on this show. The entire issue is Erica sitting in a therapist's office, barely speaking on anything. Like, he's trying to get stuff out of her, and she's just like, no, I'm not going to tell you. And it's just, that's the entire issue. There's no killings. There's no, anything that expands on the Slaughterverse. There's nothing that expands on the houses. It's just her sitting there being like the typical like emo or goth guy or girl, like the first time they're at therapy, like, I don't want to talk about anything. I'm not going to open up. And it's just like, really, I'm paying whatever, $3.99 for this times like 4 because I get every cover besides the ratios nowadays. Like, it's just, I don't get it. Like,
yeah.
But
I definitely like this issue better than last issue, though. I'll be honest with you. Like, this issue felt a little bit more depth to it because last issue, at least this issue, they were talking about Erica, and last issue it was about these stupid treehouse characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, but at least last week or last month they had at least a better. I feel like it was a better storyline with the treehouse, and she's kind of hurt, and it's a little different. But other than that, so you said you didn't get a chance to read Annihilation 2099 Silver Surfer.
No,
very good.
Okay.
Yeah, very good storyline. So we all know Silver Surfer was created by Galactus to be a herald, and the storyline is he was a herald that was created by Mephisto. Basically, he was a guy who was dying. He's done nothing but good his entire life, no bad. And Mephisto comes to him and says, kind of the same thing. Like, you can be my herald, you can continue to live, but you basically have, I kind of like own you. But he doesn't understand that, like, who Mephisto is and everything. So basically his job now as the Silver Surfer of 2099 is to go around and look for people who are dying, to basically go to them and say, you've done so much good in your life, come to the dark side. Basically, it's literally what it is. So he has this passion, he has this compassion because he visits a few people and they say no to him, and he likes that because of the fact that they have the opinion, they have their option to go ahead and said no when he said yes, which is completely, something that he shouldn't have done. So like when these people are telling him no, I'd rather just die, he's just like, it's almost like a win for him. And eventually Mephisto gets pissed off, and Mephisto and him have a fight. And for some reason, and I didn't really, it's not explained too well in this issue, but he somehow gets freed from Mephisto, but he's still like the Silver Surfer. So I thought that was a good issue. Other than that, the Thundercats number 6 came out this week.
That was a good
one. I thought it was interesting because of the way that it kind of ended last issue, where Panthro leaves because he gets beat by Chitara. So it's almost like a complete solo issue. It's just Panthro, and you actually have a little bit of like a solo origin of Panthro, and it almost reminded me of kind of like when I interviewed Sue talking about the Chitara stuff. So you actually get to learn a little bit more about Panthro, what he was like on Third Earth on Thundera with Lino as a kid, like why he was who he was with him. Like, he was more of like the warrior, he was a protector, but it was almost like Lino was also protecting Panthro because of who he was, because he was like the general, like he was like a lonely guy. He wasn't with anybody, not married, no kids. And throughout the entire issue, it's really just Panthro fighting off the Vulture men, looking for something that's kind of like Thunderium to and it kind of ends like with our good buddy Snarf.
I like the aspect of like Third Earth kind of being this penal colony. And I think that'll lend a lot of like intrigue to the story in terms of like you can already tell there's more to this. Like, there's gonna be drama from this, finding out. Now they're basically, it's pretty much like a prison, right? Like they're taking refuge in a prison that they populated, and so they're like public enemy number 1, which is pretty cool little way to do the story. So I like that.
And then last but not least, it's got to be my pick of the week. TMNT #1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. Um, it starts off, and again, we kind of briefly talked about this, I think, over the past couple weeks, how these first 4 issues were going to be. So each issue is just involving like a single turtle. So this one, for the most part, from what you've seen, a lot of the people that are doing variant covers for this are just doing Raph, which I'm just like, I don't get why you do Raph unless you're going to do connecting variants somehow. But you got Raph, he's in prison. He has like this deal with the warden that he kind of like doesn't get picked on, but he gets to have almost like free roam of the facility at night. And the reason because he's kind of like the security guard at night. Because like the inmates try to escape, he puts them back in their cell, he beats the crap out of them. So he's more of like, a security guard more than a prisoner. But it's almost like it's also kind of like watching Watchmen, like with Rorschach, like when he's in the prison, it's like, I'm not in here with you, you're in here with me type of quote, like when he quotes that.
Right,
and that's literally what it's like. Like nobody wants to fuck with him. Nobody's like coming up to him and at like meal times or just in general. Like, but he says that he's like, oh, I can sense everything that's happening in this prison. Like I know these people that are mass murderers who are crying at night to sleep, or some people are begging for their lives. And it's really interesting. And then it kind of comes back full force with like the Foot Clan kind of shows up. And some things happen that will, I guess, reverberate through the next couple issues. So it's only Raph in this one. I think the next one's Mikey. So be on the lookout for TMNT #2 next month. So definitely pick of the week had to be the TMNT #1. And not because we're doing the variant. It's a really good starting point for anybody who hadn't read all 150 past issues of TMNT, I would say. So.
Well, what about the people who have read it? Do you think we'd still like it?
Well, the thing is, I didn't read a lot of it, so
no, but I have. So it's like, will I enjoy this new ongoing? Like,
I don't know because like they're not all together yet. Like I don't know where they're gonna put all. Like I don't know where they're gonna put all the turtles. Like so, like I said, like this one. Well, because you read Alpha, right?
Yeah, we saw like Donnie's in like some jail, and we don't really know what the time frame is on that and everything.
Exactly. So the problem is like I don't know where it's gonna all space out. Like if you did read the last like 100 issues or 150 issues of that series. So again, I don't know where we're gonna be. Once it comes out, we'll have to see at the end. So, but definitely pick of the week, TMNT. Before we get into some articles, you know how we do. We're gonna finish up our event stuff. So this week we had Vengeance of Moon Knight #7 tie-in. We had for the Blood Hunt stuff. We had Strange Academy Blood Hunt #3 and Wolverine Blood Hunt #4. Did you get a chance to read these this week?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, they were all decent. I mean, I liked the Moon Knight stuff because I was reading the ongoing Moon Knight Jed McKay stuff anyway. Yeah. So that was cool. It wasn't really like, nothing new. By the other issues, we'd already kind of known what was going on. This was almost like a recap and kind of fleshed out of like, Spectre coming back and a little bit more info on that. So that was cool. The Strange Academy, I don't know, I'm completely uninterested in that.
I know, it's so weird. Like that was like a series that started off so strong, especially with Paya and the Darkhold kid, and then it kind of just turned this last issue, and it kind of sets up, I guess, for the final issue of Blood Hunt because of what we know with Doctor Doom, like wanting to become the Sorcerer Supreme. Like
that kind of like, I feel like that ruined the momentum of this little mini series, like the tie-in with Doom and stuff, and it's kind of like we said about Moon Knight. Like we'd already kind of seen these events play out, right? And so like what you're seeing in this book is a little bit of like how did we get there, and you're kind of meshing it. But I also felt like that kind of affected the storytelling of this issue and kind of made it like meh. And then I mean, this is probably the third or fourth. I didn't read Strange Academy, like the ongoings, like the original ones, but I've read a couple of the miniseries Strange Academy, and I want to be honest. None of the characters are very like remarkable to me. I mean, Dormammu's kid is like really the only one because he looks different, but there's like 2 or 3 kids who like I have no idea who they are. And honestly, I don't even know their names. They just look like the same person. There's like 2 or 3 boys that are like, I'm just like, as I'm reading this issue, I'm like, okay, so one of the boys said that, and one of the boys said that, like they're not memorable.
Well, it's tough because like Emily Bright was the main character in the first series. Like that was her and Doyle were good. You had Shayla, you had Gus, you had Zoe, who's like what was she? She's kind of like a New Orleans type of character. Like,
Yeah, I remember her.
Who else is there? Like there's Tooth, and then you got Pie in this one, and there's another character that was introduced as well, and then the Darkhold kid. Which again, like it's okay if you've been reading the series, and then you're going to be like, all right, well that's fine. Like the Darkhold kid, Darkhold will stay with Strange Academy, and kind of like that last panel that has Doom with all the Strange Academy kids. It's like, all right, so what's going to happen with him? Like toward and like all these characters, are we going to get an ongoing after this, or is it like Doom is taking
Next
over?
event.
Yeah, it's very odd. Very
like the next event, you'll get another mini series of them or something. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a letdown.
But yeah, and then what do you think of Wolverine Bloodhunt 4 with like Maverick and?
Awesome. Loved it. I mean, it was great. Like, I mean, I love Maverick as a character, and
I would hope so.
Yeah, and Night Guard is a really cool character too. Like, I'd love to see more of her, but it's tricky with characters like Blade and Night Guard and stuff, like these vampires that have like this single mission, right? Like,
yep.
Okay, but like, how often can we do vampires? Like, Blade was cool when he was like Midnight Suns because, of course, yeah, he hunts vampires and blah blah blah. But he was also doing other stuff. It wasn't just solo single mission. So, I mean, I like the character of Night Guard, and I'd like to see more of her. It's just like, well, how do you throw her in other stuff? So maybe we'll see. But
don't you think it's funny that like we had well, especially like Brielle. Like Brielle was was announced many years ago, and the book never came out, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it's like they did her in the first free comic book day,
like what, a year or two ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like, let's do this one more time. But I feel like it was already set in stone that they were going to be doing Blood Hunt like a year down the line. Like they knew what they were going to do.
Yeah. Right? I wonder what happened there. I wonder what delayed it. Right. Because then they did. I mean, we had her appearance, like you said, in the free comic book day, and then we had Blade's ongoing, which kind of led into the Blood Hunt stuff. And then I was just looking.
She had her mini too, so wasn't anything different.
She had a mini, yeah. And then I saw solicitations. I mean, Blade has an ongoing coming out later this year, or maybe not an ongoing. I think it's 1 through 5. So he's going to survive past this, and they're bringing him back. So yeah, Blade Red Band comes out. I don't know, later this year in the fall, written by Brian Hill. So yeah, I don't know, man. It is weird. You think about it, like what was the plan here? I mean, she's okay. I mean, I'd have to say she's probably like a pretty strong average character, right? Like I don't feel like there's much to her.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't completely understand her power set. Like she's not like her dad. She powers up a little bit more. She's a little bit more like vamped out, and it kind of comes in waves, right? Like at nighttime. Is that what it is? Like I don't feel like they've explained it very well. Am I wrong? Or maybe I wasn't paying attention.
No, that's what it is. That's literally what it is. Like she has the thirst. But like Blade's been able to succumb to, or not succumb to it because of his many years of being a vampire hunter. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But we'll see how this ends. Right. Other than that event, let's get into Absolute Power. So this week we had 3 issues. We had the Green Arrow tie-in, Green Arrow 14. We had the Absolute Power Task Force 7 number 2 and Absolute Power Origins number 1. Did you get a chance to read these?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Strong. Green Arrow was good. Obviously, you're seeing more like the Arrow gang, right? Kind of like what their plans are and how that's going to go down with them, which is cool. I mean, like I'm not trying to like talk shit on them, but like, how many dudes with bow and arrows do we need? Like, there's like 8 of them. Like,
I didn't realize there really are.
Yeah, dude, I didn't realize they brought in everyone. I was like, oh my god, they brought Mia Darden back too. Like, I mean, I think there's going to even be. Because now you have, they also have, I know who, like the Red Canary, right? So you got like Red Canary, Mia Darden, you got Speedy, Roy Harper, fucking Connor Hawk, Miko. What's the girl? The blonde girl.
Isn't
there another one? Maybe Arrowette. Like, I mean, there's like 7 of them. Bow and arrows. Like, okay, cool, dude. But I don't know. Oh, I mean, I guess you also had what's her name, Cheshire in there.
Yeah, Cheshire, and yeah.
So
but yeah, other than her, like everybody is a bow and arrow character.
yeah, right.
They all have bows and arrows.
Like
they'd be great. They'd be great against like the vampires. But
dude, what if you come up against a dude with a shield? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? One guy, just a whole team of dudes with shields. You're screwed. You're just screwed. So it was cool. Surprisingly, dude, I actually really hold on before we get to Origins. Task Force 7. I thought it was cool.
Oh, so much better than the first one, though.
Yeah, definitely way better than the first one. But I get, you know what I'm getting vibes of, though, like with this and like the Amazos, right? And it's very much feels like the Dark Knight's Metal to me, where it's like we have a bad guy Justice League guy who has the powers of, obviously these Amazos have more powers than like what we saw in Dark Knight's Metal, where you have like the evil Batman, the evil Superman, and all that. But I feel like it's kind of the same thing, right? And then it like highlights like, oh, we went to Atlantis and here's evil Amazo Aquaman guy, and he's down there.
Depth charge.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't bad, but I wasn't blown away by it. I'm intrigued by the Steve Trevor stuff. Like, where's that going? That's kind of like, it's kind of almost like a bonus story in each issue. So kind of like what's happening with him, but I didn't think it was too, amazing. What did you think?
I mean, the depth charge stuff, that was interesting. I liked it, especially, and it's the same thing, you're bringing in all the Aqua Atlantean characters. So you have like Arthur Hyde in there, and well, Tempest was really in the last issue, but
the Doom Patrol as well.
Yeah, like that was cool because like when he went to Atlantis, I was like, wait a second, I was like, why is he so big? Like, how are they going to beat him? And like, how did this Amazo become like a giant? And I'm like, oh, that's right, they explained it because he took him elongated woman's like powers or whatever. So and then what do they introduced in, but even in like Green Arrow, they introduced a character like the Woman of Tomorrow. Well, not introduced, but like reintroduced.
Oh, yeah.
She was like from an older, like random, like older series.
That's probably a little too deep in the DC lore for me. I didn't know who she was.
Yeah, she's got like psychic and kinetic powers or something like that. They put it on like the little bookmark at the bottom. I just don't remember when she was like sometime in the Superman era series. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think the Origins was definitely the best. Like, this is really the first time that we got a huge backstory on Amanda Waller.
Surprisingly,
like her husband was killed by a gang. Her son, and she kind of works her way up. And especially now, exactly what we're in our times. Like, it's a campaigning. It's an election year. So like that's what she does. She's working for this campaign guy to try to get him to win, and he doesn't think he's going to win. And then there's a lot of that, hush hush stuff going on. And,
she's pulling the strings in the back.
So I thought it was quite an interesting story.
I did too. I was kind of surprised because the cover is horrendous, dude.
It was like painted, right?
It sucks. I don't know what it is. It almost looks like one of those. It almost looked like, I felt like it would have been better if they would have got the actress from like the Snyderverse who played her and like made it like because it's like a real person. Is it painted? Maybe you're right. Maybe it's painted, but it looks like,
that's what it looks like. It looks painted.
I don't know. To me, it looks like a real person, but I could be completely wrong. But yeah, it's weird. I saw the cover and I remember thinking, I bet this is gonna suck. Because I think the covers are horrible. But it was good. It was good.
Yeah. I definitely think it was like the best tie-in for the week for Absolute Power. So, and we're going to see where it goes for the next 2 issues because it's a 3-issue miniseries. So I guess we'll, maybe the next issue you'll kind of see her more in the government, right? Like kind of her beginnings, like in the true government.
Because she had like what on the computer she was working on the task force project. Right. So like, we're getting there. So yeah,
but it's interesting because even in I think it's in, what is it? Is Peacemaker, like the Peacemaker show? Like her daughter works for.
Yeah, her daughter was like. Yeah, didn't she send the daughter out after Peacemaker? Right.
Yeah, like she was one of the. She's the girl that works with that task force or whatever.
Yeah.
So and that's the first time like I knew that she even had like a kid or anything, and I don't know if that was introduced, and then brought into the comics, or if it's, it was brought in it was first in the comics and then this. Because I couldn't tell you like where Waller came from.
Yeah, I'm
For
not
as much
super.
as I've read
Yeah,
Suicide Squad from like a lot, some of the John Ostrander stuff, and then like the New 52 stuff and the Rebirth stuff.
Like I'm very savvy on her, but not
Yeah.
necessarily like her origin. You know what I mean? Like it's like I know Waller. Waller does this. Well, this is Waller. This is her like general background, but like how she got there, like her year one type shit. Yeah, I don't know. That's all kind of new to me too.
That's why we got the origins. So
Yep.
all right, so out of the comic book stuff and into some articles. So first up, we're going to talk about the Joker trailer. So let's see if we can play this. I know, again, for audio podcast for you listeners over on Spotify and iTunes, you won't be seeing this, but you'll be hearing it over the next 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So let's go ahead and share this over here on YouTube so we can talk about this. So share my screen. We got the Joker trailer that just popped open. So let's check it out. Here we go.
2 years ago, the name Arthur Fleck hit Gotham like a hurricane.
The trial of the century.
They believe Arthur Fleck to be some kind of martyr. Well, he's not. There's a monster.
When I first saw Joker, when I saw you,
the whole world smiles with you.
For once in my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore.
When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. For once in my life, I have someone who needs me.
How about you, Arthur? Do you still think you're a star?
Showtime. The whole world smiles with you.
You can do anything you want.
The sun comes.
You're Joker.
Look around, look at all these people. Bring on. I will no longer allow any of you. So stop your sighing to keep me down. Be happy again. I got the sneaking suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
It's okay, baby. Let's give the people what they want. Sing hallelujah. Come on, get happy. Ready for the judgment day.
All right. So what do we think? Zach, that was the first time you've seen it. That's probably the third time that I've seen it because I saw it the other day when it dropped. Saw it today when I went to go see Deadpool. And that was, at least a little bit different because I could actually enjoy it. And then that was the third time. So how was your first time viewing the Joker?
I mean, the same way I felt about seeing the first Joker and the first trailer for the first Joker and the first trailer for this movie. I don't care. I think this is dumb. And I mean, I know people are out there and there's probably people like really mad at me. And that's fine. I'm not trying to shit on your guys' favorite movie. Apparently, all of you, there's at least people who think this is like the greatest movie of all time, the Joker. But it's not, in my opinion. And yeah, I'll see it, but I don't like the singing. Like it's too artsy. You know what? That's what it is. To me, it's too artsy, and it's like trying to be something like, oh, let's try to win an Oscar or something. Like, who gives a shit, dude? Why are we doing this? And like, none of it makes sense. Like, the timeline. So Harvey Dent's alive, and he's like roughly, I guess, probably the same age as the Joker, and Batman's 5 or 10 or whatever. Like, it's just, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't understand. Like, well, all right. So here's my rebuttal to you, and I agree with you. Like, I will fully support this movie because it's a DC movie, and I go and see all like the comic book related movies when they do come out. But like, why would an actor or an actress sign on to a movie if they don't want to think that it's an artsy enough movie to win an Oscar, like where they could be nominated? You know, like.
I mean, I wouldn't think most people are getting into comic book movies with the goal of like winning Oscars and whatnot.
Well, let's just look at this movie because of what the first movie did, knowing that it's not really like a Guardians of the Galaxy or, Captain Marvel. Like, yes, those movies are not winning Oscars because of the movie of the year or score or drama or whatever it is, or best actor. People wanted Robert Downey Jr. to win Best Actor in Avengers Endgame because of the whole, like, what he did throughout the entire, he carried that entire, 10 years of Marvel, whatever.
Well, let me ask you this. What's the plot of this movie? Based on what you've seen, what's the plot?
So it picks up 3 years later. He's on trial, and he's in Arkham, let's just say Arkham Asylum. And it also has Harley Quinn, who at the time when he first did his riots, kind of saw him, and they started their little love connection in the asylum. They break out, or they're let go, and then they kind of, like, what the trailer looks like is it kind of is them ending it towards the end where they are running the show, like they're running some online, whatever, like some, because it's in like it feels like it's in the 50s or 60s,
right? It's like
but I also feel like the show's exactly, like a Tonight, like primetime show. I just feel like the movie is more in their head, and I agree with you. Like when he starts, like, well, you could tell it's Joaquin Phoenix in the background singing, but then like when you actually see him singing, and I'm just like, this is not the Joker. This is not the Joker, man. No. Come on. Like, but
I don't know. I mean, whatever, like you said, I support all comic book movies. I'd go see them. But I'm not one of these people who's like, oh, I cannot wait for the Joker to come out. To be honest, like, with the fact that, like, I barely get to go see movies as it is with like a newborn, like this will probably be a Amazon Prime when it shows up. Like, I don't know if I'd waste my time and my money if there's other things out to go see this in the theater. Like, I remember the first one. I've seen the first one time, and I honestly feel like it was not memorable. Like, and then now, I hear him laughing in the movie, and I just think about our new presidential candidate. Like, it's really the same thing to me, dude. Like, just cackling, laughing. So I don't know, dude.
Yeah, I feel like I watched Joker when I was in theaters, and I think I watched it like one more time. And I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know what? If it's probably not called the Joker, and you don't look at it as like a DC movie and a villain movie, like if you just looked at it as a psycho,
right? I'm with you there.
Like, okay, yeah, I can, I can get behind this.
I could do that,
but I don't know if I can get behind it with a musical. But again, that's something different, right? And I can't get behind it
with the Joker appetite to it. Like, I can't. Like, that's a loaded character. So I'm 100% with you. If it wasn't like Joker, or I could say it was called Arthur, whatever his name is, Fleck or whatever. What is his name? Fleck. Yeah, Arthur Fleck. Let's just say that's the name of the movie. I'd be like, oh, it's kind of a really interesting, weird movie, with this crazy guy dressed up like a clown. But you putting the Joker in there, I don't know, dude. Whatever. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it'll just be so amazing.
So coming out early October, be on the lookout for that. So next up, let's get out of the trailers. Let's talk some stuff that is dropping and or, being a little bit of a conversation starter. So thanks to our buddy Gabe. Gabe's Love the 90s Comics. He provided this article to us. And I thought it was actually pretty interesting. So this is coming over from softtonic.com. So from now on, Marvel Comics will have a QR code to view the final page, and nobody understands why. The mutant power of wanting to be modern is bad. So if you picked up X-Men 1 and NYX 1, and the tours. Like I think it's kind of starting with the X-Men stuff. So
Yeah, I don't think it was in Phoenix. I'd have to go back.
Yeah, I don't think it was in Phoenix either. I think it's like starting these other ones. So once upon a time, there was a couple months ago, reading comic books in physical format was very simple. You bought it, you read it, and that was it. As an alternative, you could wait for the comics to be collected in a volume a few months later to enjoy the complete adventures at a slightly cheaper price, or at least preferred digital copies. You have a different possibility to enjoy your hobby until now. So Marqueville is what this titled is talking about. So like most publishers has been seeing businesses dropping and comic books aren't selling as they used to, particularly because the day before the new releases are available for sale, someone has already scanned them and posted the twists and the best panels on Reddit and various websites. That has something to do that can be done. There's nothing that can be done about this, and it reflects the current state of things. As a result, the first release of the new era of X-Men tried to change things in the weirdest way possible, removing the last page and replacing it with a QR code. So now, before people think that we haven't read the books, we have read the books. It's not removing the last page. It's still the full series. It's just this QR code is kind of like a mid-credit or end-credit scene, right? That's kind of like what it is. So with the QR code, readers can access the final page, which tends to be the one that holds the cliffhanger and nods to the future. But turns out that this won't be the only time it happens. As explained in an upcoming newsletter, they basically imagine as an extra page that won't be released until the same day of launch to avoid spoilers. And they continue to do this throughout the different titles of the Mutant franchise. And I get this. So that's actually pretty cool because, Zach, you know, like you used to get your comics early, like and most people know that. I guess it's like whether it's through Diamond or Penguin Random House, you know, books kind of come like the week before. So for the most part, you can read the book, but this QR code, the way this QR code is working is it doesn't actually scan available until the Wednesday of release, which is very interesting. So what do you think, you know, how do you feel about this for people that are buying, you know, obviously the Marvel stuff right now? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea?
I mean, I don't think by any means it can be considered a bad idea. I noticed it when I read X-Men 1, and I was like, oh, what's this QR code? And typically I'm just kind of lazy. And so I am typically the person like, oh, I'll just move past this, probably some ad or something. But I was sitting there for whatever reason and I scanned it and I was like, oh, what? And I was like, this is cool. And it is just like Justin said, it's just a page. It's like a normal page. And I think in X-Men it was almost like you see, if I remember correctly, like a table and like some shadowy figures. So it's like the threat of like the villains coming up, you know, and I don't think you really even got it like anyone introduced necessarily. And Phoenix actually has one also. I just looked at it.
Oh, really? I didn't.
The Phoenix Books does, yeah. And that one's pretty cool. That one actually looks like there's someone, it's like I don't know who the female character is. I didn't recognize her, but it looks like they're carrying the Phoenix sword that was carried for a while by oh gosh, what was the dude's name? I don't know, I can't remember right now, but that could be kind of cool. So I like it. I like the blade of the Phoenix. Sorry, so the blade of the Phoenix. It looks like that might be the sword that was carried in this. It's almost like a Buster sword in a way. Rookshire was who carried it in the comics back in like around the time when like Vulcan was emperor of like the Shi'ar Empire and stuff. Some people will remember that. Anyway, I think it's cool. You know, like it's a little bonus, and you know, I don't know if I didn't really agree with the article though. Like I didn't really agree with the article. Like, well, you know, these comics are getting ruined because people are releasing. Like, what has there been? Honestly, like I couldn't even. As you were reading that article, I was thinking in my head, like, what was a comic that got like ruined that had like this massive cliffhanger? Like, it's not like the movies. You know what I mean? The format doesn't really like lend itself to have like. I mean, in comics, can you even think of anything in comics where it was like a bait and switch, really, where they like you were like, oh my god, I didn't realize that was going to happen. Like, it doesn't really work that well in the format of comic books necessarily.
Well, I don't think it's so much like the bait and switch of like the big twist or like some death or something, or well, I guess a death, but I think it's more so like the first appearances, right?
Yeah,
because first appearances are so, you know, speculative, and again, we're not really like a speculation channel, so you know, we're not out there hunting those books on like Wednesday when like some first appearance announcement is, you know, but I feel like if I thought that's what they were going to kind of do with it, and maybe they will, right? Like maybe they'll leave it up for that QR code to be like, oh, well, you have to get this, But really, technically, then it wouldn't be like their first appearance because
I was gonna say, now you're like, is it a cameo? Is it the book? Like, what is it? Like, what is considered like? You want to muddy the water of like Hulk 180, 181? Like, is it a cameo of these people? And is it? It's digital, so like, where does it exist?
Yeah, like I just scanned the NYX and the bonus scene, and I don't really understand it. Like, I don't know who these characters. It's like this little girl.
Yeah.
It's like this little girl's gonna be meeting somebody who has like a Joker smile. I thought maybe it was like sinister in like a way, but
I was thinking more arcade.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would have been my second guess. But yeah, I just thought it was
kind
like
of in the shadows.
So again, you don't know, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know like what's gonna happen. And I know they got away with the QR codes for a long time because when they were in the books, if you had like a expensive book and somebody pulled the QR code off, like that's noted on the CGC label.
Yeah.
And then it devalues your book. And people would just go to like the comic shops, open it up, scan the QR code and add it to whatever their library is or whatever, whatever Marvel Unlimited or whatever their collection thing is called. So, I think it's an interesting play for Marvel to do. I don't really think as long as it's not taking away anything and it's really just like a bonus thing, like I said, like a mid-credit scene or end credit scene, I'm fine with it. Like,
yeah, I don't think there's a negative. The only negative I could really come up with on it would be if someone hadn't scanned that code, like if you had read the book and you didn't do the QR code and then you pick up the next issue, are you going to be missing like story, right? Like, will they rehash? Will they kind of like explain? Or is it ever going to be a situation where it's like, you must have read that or you're not going to understand what the hell just happened here. But I think it's cool. It's something fun, man. I mean, look, we've talked about for years, right? Like technology knocks on the door of comics. Like, when will it end? And luckily it hasn't, right? Like Comixology, like you said, Marvel Unlimited, like these things have been around for a while, but they don't take off because for whatever reason, right? We like the books. And it could maybe like the longest, who knows how long, dude. It won't go away. People like the physical copies. But you do got to also branch. You got to adapt to the times. So it's fun. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I'm for it. As long as it's not really hurting anybody. I mean, that article make it seems like it's hurting comic sales. Like realistically, like
who's not buying because of the QR code?
Yeah. Right. Like, and them saying like, oh, the books are already up online. So even if the books are up online, like you still go to your normal shop and pre-order books. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Well, and you honestly, I pulled up Phoenix right now online, and I use the QR code from online as well. Yeah. So like, you can still do.
It's going to work now, but it wouldn't have worked on like Tuesday or Monday if the books are up the day before. It's only going to work on that day, which I think is interesting. Like, that's a cool like timestamp thing that you have to wait until like midnight on the Wednesday of release. So.
Man, I'm kind of glad I don't get my books early now. That would be really annoying.
Yeah, because now you're just like, what is it? What is the panel like?
I have to just like sit there and wait till a day, like not bag and board it and put it away. I gotta leave it out, and then I have to try to remember to QR code one panel, right?
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, exactly. You gotta remember. All right, so
I got a little bit. I found some news-ish.
Okay, well, I actually have a DC thing. And
then that's what I got
hop
too.
Over to you. Oh, okay. What do you got for DC?
Were you gonna talk about Absolute Flash?
No, I was going to talk about Justice League Unlimited, kind of branching off to what we talked about last week. But yeah, you go ahead, since it's kind of a continuation for the DC All-In. So go ahead.
Yeah, and it's also kind of coming out of it. Got announced here at San Diego Comic-Con. Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday, so not a lot of info is dropped from the Comic-Con yet. But DC confirms Absolute Flash, written by Jeff Lemire, which we talked about, right? Jeff Lemire kind of write, and we didn't know what he's going to write. Super interested to see how he writes Flash, because Lemire's like a horror guy, dude. Like he's like and Flash is such like the goody two shoes. He's almost more goody two shoes than Superman at times, in a way.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm actually like really intrigued by this. So anyway, DC Comics confirms Absolute Flash by Jeff Lemire and Nick Robles, releasing March 2025. Obviously, it's going to be launching with Absolute Batman as well. So not a ton of info on like what's going to be in the book at all, but we do know, obviously, right, this is the Absolute universe, like the spin-off universe that's going to be going on. So a different take on Flash than what we used to. So he may not be the cookie cutter guy, which also could be really interesting if he's got some edge to him, written by Jeff Lemire. So that's really cool, man. I'm excited. So that's now we've got Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and now we also have Absolute Flash. So that's cool. I'm really looking forward. I'll definitely check that book out for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for all the Absolute stuff because it's not going to be like you said. It's not going to be the cookie cutter. It's not going to be your mainstay characters exactly like the Ultimate Universe is doing for the Marvels. It's not the same way. They could be older. They could be younger. They, especially with Flash, like he works for the police. He's a forensic scientist. Like maybe that's not what he's like. Like maybe he's a college student and he has his powers and he's dealing with that. Maybe that's the Flash that we're going to get, or maybe it's more like you said with Lemaire. It's more of like a horror thing. So maybe we'll see what happens. So, but I'm definitely excited for all the Absolute. And I know they did give away, or DC was doing a giveaway at San Diego Comic-Con for the Absolute Batman Ash can. They did. I don't know. I guess that was the inside was like some of the preview pages for the upcoming Batman. So that's pretty cool. We'll see what happens with that. So, but other than that, this was coming over from the DC Breakfast. Another cool one. I'm going to share this on our screen. So we have Justice League Unlimited announced. Justice League Unlimited #1 coming out later this year. So announced at San Diego Comic-Con. So announced today at Absolute Power Panel. You have Mark Waid going to be writing it. And then like we talked about last week, Dan Moore going to be drawing it. I'm so psyched. And this is really interesting. So this is the first series of Justice League book in years. More specifically, the last Justice League comic was Justice League 75 in July of 2022.
Wow.
And I remember that because you sold your entire run.
And it was not good. It ended bad. Like it was not a good title towards the end.
Because that was the relaunch. Yeah, I know, right? 2 years. 2 years without a Justice League book. That was the relaunch of Snyder. Because Snyder relaunched that series.
Yeah.
And then
Williamson ended it. Williamson did the last arc.
So the team appears to include Superman, Flash, Black Lightning, Batman with a super suit, Wonder Woman, Star Sapphire, and Captain Atom, clearly showing his dark side at the top, who will likely be the one they will be battling. And you can pretty much, you can see that here in the picture. So you got all those characters. You don't see Black Lightning in here, but it's cool. Star Sapphire, definitely a newbie on the Justice League run.
Yeah, it's a good switch from Green Lantern,
Yeah, exactly. And then Black Lightning kind of, he's been on the team, but he's also been like part of the Outsiders. So that kind of kicks him up with like Batman, someone that Batman can trust maybe,
Did you say Flash?
Flash is also on there as well. So, but and then you have the first two covers and they look good. And again, like Dan Moore, we've spoken highly of Dan's work here on the podcast and absolutely love it. So
looks like Martian Manhunter in that picture too.
Yeah, you do see it here, but that wasn't announced on that one.
Yeah.
But then they do show off some concept stuff for the Watchtowers, so it looks like they're bringing back that old school, 90s Justice League with the Watchtower. And I hope that's kind of like the route they go because that's something that we haven't seen in quite a long time. It's always just been like the Hall of Justice. And for people that have watched like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, we're all about the Watchtower. Like this
it's cool.
Orbital space station that can help both the heroes on Earth and the heroes, in space, wherever, traverse and need to get to where they need to be. So I'm excited for that going forward. So that'll come out sometime in October. Doesn't really say when, but I think it's going to be right after we talked about it last week, like right after Absolute Power ends. And then the DC All In kind of starts off. So other than that, the only other thing that I want to talk about real quick is some Star Wars news. So one more article we got over here that was just a little bit of an announcement. So we have the new upcoming comics coming from San Diego Comic-Con for Star Wars. So we finally have the Battle of Jakku comic. So this is going to be a 12-issue miniseries, but it's actually brought off in 4-issue arcs. So we know the Battle of Jakku, the beginnings of the Rise of Skywalker, the Force Awakens storyline. We learn about Jakku and what happens and what we see realistically is the end of the war. That's kind of supposedly like the final battle. The only time really we get to see Jakku is in Star Wars Battlefront 2. You get a little bit of that storyline, but this is coming over from StarWars.com. So the end of the Empire and a new Marvel maxi series, Battle of Jakku. Insurgency Arising arrives later this year for an all-out ride. The comics will be held You can see them all at StarWars.com, exclusively geared up for San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Check back on Thursday for the annual Lucasfilm panel, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be 4 issues. Interesting stuff, because not only will this be 4 issues ending, because we know with Star Wars ending at 50, Darth Vader's ending at 50. And let me tell you, I read Darth Vader 48. They need to do a lot of wrap up in these next 2 issues.
Yeah, dude, right? The same one. They get you. Like, I'm like, what are we doing here?
I don't know how they're going to do this, but
drop the shield, bro, and get to work.
Yeah, because this is going to be ending, and now we're going to be post Return of the Jedi. So I know, I think in between we're going to get a Return of the Jedi, maybe it's not a series, but just kind of what happens. But so in the first issue of this Insurgency Rising, you have in the wake of the Battle of Endor, can Luke and Leia and the nascent New Republic stave off an unexpected and deadly new threat? I don't know, man. I don't know how this is going to be. We're going to have these couple issues going 1, 2, and 3. Here you can see they're doing a prequel trilogy from Dark Horse. So they're doing Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and the Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith back as well. But, back up to the Insurgency Rising. So it's going to be a 4-issue miniseries, but then it's, like I said, it's a 12-issue maxi series. And the other ones I had written them down. I couldn't find the full article on it, but I did have it on a post. So the first part is called Insurgency Rising. The second part is called Republic Under Siege 1-4. And then the last one is called Last Stand 1-4. So each of them, it looks like it's also going to be a weekly series. So starting at the end in October will be the first issue, going through till the end of the year pretty much. And then a trade paperback will collect all 12 issues coming out in April. So I'm happy to see this, because it's something that, I guess when you first watch Force Awakens, right? And the only thing or when you originally saw the trailer and you saw this giant Death Star and all these the Star Destroyers, and then all these just Republic ships, and you're Rey's searching, why is she going through this giant Star Destroyer? You hear about Jakku, and then even Finn's it says it in this article. Finn's why does anybody want to go back to Jakku? So clearly something was big, at the Battle of Jakku.
Yeah.
Nothing that we know about, but at least something that's going to be brought back for, what's going to happen. So I'm excited to read some new Star Wars, something post, Return of the Jedi. This is finally something that I'm hoping stays for a while, because, the next ongoing series of Star Wars is definitely going to be post Return of the Jedi, something that we have no idea, and it's canon. It's something that I'm fine with. This 50-issue Star Wars has probably been the longest, at least the one that went 75. For the most part, it was good when it started off. And then you had not a lot of mini series in there, or not a lot of story arc crossovers, but it was a good series for 75 issues. And again, Vader 1, Vader 2, great series. This Vader series, I'm just oh boy, come on, let's end this. But like I said, man, issue 48 came out this week, and I have no idea how they're wrapping up all the things that they're gonna talk about in these next 2 issues. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. We kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago. What's going to happen next in Star Wars, right? Because even as we get to in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, right, a lot of that has been filled in canon now. Stuff with Mandalorian and even the comics they've done, the Poe Dameron stuff was a lot of that's pre Force Awakens as well. So you're getting into a realm where it's not as free to move as maybe it was in the past. But what with some of these covers that I do obviously you see Bib Fortuna, right? So you're gonna get some information on okay, so the fall of Jabba, right? And then Bib Fortuna takes over, and we see him in Boba Fett or in the Mando as the guy who's running the Jabba's old crew. So we'll get some, we'll get to see maybe how Bib kind of got there and what he did with it a little bit there. And you're gonna see some other Empire dudes, the last legs of the Empire. But I mean, to be honest, it's a little lackluster in a way too, because it's something how you already know the story's going to end, right? So there's some faces on those comics, right, that are Empire looking dudes, and you don't really know who they are. At least I didn't recognize them. So they're probably new characters, but at the same time, if they are new characters, and I also know they're not going to be around for very long. So it's hard to get like invested in characters, right? Like knowing like, oh, this guy's going to be like this guy could be a really cool villain for 4 issues, and then he's dead because we don't see him ever again. But you know, here's what you do. Here's what I think. If you want to do this and you do stuff like this, you need to flesh out and try to fix the problems of the sequel trilogy, right? Like, so a lot of people's complaints were, oh, you brought back Palpatine. Oh, you did all this. It was the same. It was a rehash of the original trilogy, which I'm not saying it wasn't, but the comics have kind of been trying to fix that, right? Like we are getting hints. You're seeing it in Mandalorian. You saw it in Rebels. I'm sorry, not Rebels, in Bad Batch. The clone stuff, the midichlorians, the M count, all that kind of saying, yeah, look, dude, we showed you, and now we're getting you. So like, show us some, and like in Vader's things, we're seeing Exegol and shit like that. So that would be cool too if you're also getting like a side story of like, hey, Exegol's getting beefed up over here too, like for you know the future, and like, and then maybe we get some background on fucking Snoke, you know, as well, or something like that, like the rise of that clone body. That's how you fix, in my opinion, that's kind of what you got to do. The only way to fix the sequel trilogy is to beef them up more, right? Like create some good lore around it, fill in those gaps, and it could turn out to be kind of cool. So,
well, here's the thing. Did you ever play the Star Wars Battlefront 2?
I played 2. Oh, I think it was 2. I played one of them a little bit, not much though.
So, because the last one had a really good storyline because it involved Inferno Squadron, who was finally introduced in the comic format in Bounty Hunters, and it's, you know, it starts with it has Ian Versio, that's the girl's name, and she's a part of the Empire, and it's the last days of the Empire, and then she eventually turns and becomes like a rebel, right? So the fact that hopefully we'll see, I would assume we would see her, because that's kind of where that story is. Like that's, I mean, you know, I don't think they ever show up. I don't think her team ever shows up on Jakku, but I haven't played that game in a really long time, so I forget the whole story. But I could see, you know, her being like a character that was introduced in a game, introduced then later in the comics. That could be kind of like a mainstay, like post Return of the Jedi, pre the sequel trilogy, like as a big mainstay character, because she is someone who's important. She is, you know, she is a fearful character that clearly they liked her enough to be able to put her in the comics. So let's see what, you know, this can bring for, you know, the whole Inferno Squadron, because there's a lot of stuff, because it's Operation Cinder is the final thing that involves, like, because you have there's like a mech, but there was like the Emperor, but he was like not the Emperor. It was like an android looking thing that kind of was the Emperor. It was pretty badass. But that was the whole thing with the Star Wars Battlefront 2. And now that I'm talking about that, and now that they announced this, I really should probably go back and download Star Wars Battlefront 2 and go through the story mode, because it was a lot of fun. It was definitely it's definitely the best storyline game of all the Battlefronts. I mean, there's like four of them at least.
I'd also like to see, and didn't we see Zizor in this run? Like we saw Prince Zizor got introduced during the Crimson Reign storyline, wasn't it? Like
yeah, with all the bounties.
Yeah. So like, you know, throw in some Zizor, like let's see some Dash Rendar. Where the tits is Cal Kestis? Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, these are things you can do. Like, it's tough to keep doing the Han, Luke, and Leia because their stories are fleshed out. We know where those go.
Yeah.
But there's other characters, man. We talk about it all the time. For a galaxy that's so large, it seems like there's narrative can only exist in one little area. Like, branch out here, man. Show us some different characters. Show us Dash Rendar like operating, you know, somewhere else. You know, it doesn't have to be like the Shadows of the Empire stuff. Like, make new canon for him. He's a good character, and just his name alone would bring people to read, because they'd be like, cool, we know this guy. Same with
they changed Thrawn, and for the
they changed Thrawn. Yeah, hell yeah.
Why not? Like, hell, introduce Dash, because you're right. Like, he's someone who, when we first met him in Shadows of the Empire, like in the video game, you're like, oh, he's like Han, but he's cool. Like,
he's like Han, but younger, badass.
Yeah, it's like we're like for us, you know. And then if you read the novel Shadows of the Empire, it was, you know, a lot more expand on his character, but Yeah, he's pretty awesome. We'll see what happens for that. So
Yeah.
that's all we got kind of for San Diego Comic-Con stuff. Not much has been brought out. Obviously, the big days are over the weekend, so we'll see what trailers drop, what other announcements they did. I know they just showed off a trailer for the for Transformers 1, number 2, just trailer 2, I should say.
Oh, I saw a trailer for that, which seemed like a new one. I went and saw Twisters this past weekend.
Oh, okay.
And I saw another trailer for the Transformers movie, and I felt like it was newer than the one I saw before.
Well, in this one, it kind of starts off with more like Megatron's a bad guy. Did you see? Is that?
No, maybe it was the same one I saw before, and I just didn't realize it.
Okay, yeah. Now this one definitely has a lot more where it looks like Megatron and Optimus fight. So I'm curious of like how much either if it's going to start off where they're actual bad guys and then it's going to flash back to them being, buddies, or it'll be starting off with their buddy and then like towards the end, at least maybe we'll get like 15 minutes of them being, Decepticons, Autobots fighting for thousands of years, because you do see Megatron with like a legion of like an army of all of them, like Soundwave, Shockwave, Starscream, they're all there. So
the waves.
Well,
the waves and the jets. That's
so,
like the Decepticons, right? Like,
it's so funny you actually just said that, because in the trailer, Bumblebee's like, he starts naming off everybody. He's like, Starscream, Soundwave, Shockwave. He's like, raise your hand if your name ends in a wave. And it's like, oh, it's so corny. So
I'll be honest though. I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm really like, wow, which one's which? Soundwave, Shockwave, and I have to like stop and think about it for a second. Like, okay, I know which one's which, but I have to like think about and then all the jets.
Well, yeah, the jets are different. Yeah, Starscream's easy. It's Thundercracker and Skywarp is the two ones that. Those are the two ones that you would I guess interchange, like depending on the color.
Yeah.
And then like the second set of Seekers, and there's a whole thing you could go down, like who's who when you look at who, their character or who they are, like until they transform. But yeah. So that's it. Thanks everybody for popping in on our YouTube show. Again, we normally don't shop on YouTube, but of course this will always be uploaded to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, a couple other podcast platforms. Thank you for everybody for listening. And again, we got Terrificon right around the corner. So
yes.
Zach, anything closing?
No, man, just counting down the days.
All right. So thanks everybody, and we'll catch you all next week, and definitely bonus content will be up soon for Deadpool Wolverine review. Stay spoiler free, everybody. Peace out. Hey, comic book collectors, do you want to protect what you collect? Do you hate when your comic books slide around in your short box, or you need to turn them sideways just so they don't bend or fall over? Well, look no further than Sidekick Supplies. Their product fits firmly inside your comic box, so you don't need to worry. And not only is their product made in the USA, but also ships free directly to your doorstep. Check out our sponsor, Sidekick Supplies, at sidekicksupplies.com and use the code ComicCom15 for 15% off your purchase. Believe me, you'll be ordering more than one.